Well, today, thank you so much to Team Mintridge ambassadors, extraordinary individuals in Danielle Brown and Patrick Foster. And we are here because today is World Book Day, and we're looking to celebrate all that's been achieved in the Mintridge family. But I'd like to start by chatting to you both. Danielle, I'll come to you first in terms of your books, and just tell us why you started, what those books are about, and how many more are coming out, because it seems to be endless.
Yeah, so I mean, how it started, I think I've always wanted to be a writer, like that's my earliest childhood dream that I could ever remember, and it's just one that never went away. So I've always written. I've written some really, really bad stuff as I grew up, and I loved it. It's my escapism whilst I was competing, whilst I was training. And I found my niche in non-fiction children's books, trying to turn ideas and complicated concepts and make them interesting and understandable for children. So yeah, it's been really fun, really exciting, and I've got 3 books out now, and as you say, hopefully many more.
Amazing. And Patrick, you also, obviously this is your first book, very different to Danielle's, but are you able to share a little more as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it still feels slightly weird to describe myself or call myself an author, because I never thought it would happen, and certainly the book is not what I ever dreamed of writing a book about, but obviously really proud to have documented my personal story and journey. I think the motivation for it came for 2 reasons, really. One is that my day job is kind of sharing my story and helping hopefully educate people around my addiction. And I thought to myself, well, there's no better way to kind of make it available to everybody than in a book. And obviously that was going to be quite a long and emotive process, but it was certainly worth it. And the other motivation came really from the fact that during my rehab, during my treatment, some of the things that I found really difficult to talk about, I found much easier to write. And during rehab, I wrote a blog when I was going in and out of London, and kind of shared that with various people whilst that was going on. And then the response I got from people around that was amazing, and it made me think, well, actually maybe this is the best way to communicate some of the more difficult and emotive messages, and yeah, that's why I did it. And as Danielle will know, it's a long process. I didn't know what I was letting myself in for, but one that's actually been, whilst difficult at times, really enjoyable.
No, that's so interesting, and I think from what you've both said there, it is about that accessibility piece and actually allowing it on written paper. You can reach so many more people and help so many more people in very different ways with both of your books, but that's the overarching message, really. And I think this next question comes back to you as an individual. Danielle, I'll start with you. And how did you feel when you first saw your name on a book as an author? Was it quite an eye-opening moment?
Yeah, it's amazing. You as Patrick said, yeah, you work really hard. It's the writing, and I wasn't actually expecting how long the publishing process took as well. So you spend ages turning this idea and watching that transform into a really cool illustrated, glossy, shiny book with your name on it. It's just so cool getting to hold that final product and think, all this work that I've poured into this, it's come to life.
Yeah, I can completely see that. And I guess, Patrick, yours would be a very very different feeling in a way, in that you never thought you would have to write this book. You never knew this would be your journey. So did you have similar feelings to Danielle?
Yeah, I did. And as I said, it still feels weird seeing your kind of name on this book. And I was lucky to have a co-writer as well, Will, who helped me through the process. And sometimes I almost feel like it's his book, but my story, which actually he would argue is the other. Well, it's both my book and my story. but I think, yeah, it is quite hard to sort of get used to that and become accustomed to it. And I said to somebody the other day, I walked into Waterstones and I was thinking, what on earth's that doing? And it was next to Freddie Flintoff, who's one of my kind of cricketing idols, and I thought this isn't right. So you do get kind of imposter syndrome about it, but when you
did you hide Freddie Flintoff's book and put it to the back and put MITE further forward?
I did think about it, but I think the bit that makes it really real is when you get people send you pictures of them reading your book, or I've just finished this, or whatever it might be, and then you think, well, actually, yeah, it really is real.
Yeah, so it's so exciting for both of you, and we've loved sort of seeing them both come through the whole system, and from the start, as you both said, it's such a long process. And I think that's one of the areas that we're obviously all sports people here at Mintridge, and we talk often about the transferable skills of sport, and particularly resilience, and success isn't a straight journey, and everything else that surrounds it. What do you think has been the biggest learning from sports? What's sport given you that helped you write this book and the whole process behind it? Patrick, we'll start with you.
Yes, it's a really good question. I think one of the things that sport has always given me, whether it was playing a kind of professional level for a short period of time, but also now enjoying it as an amateur, is that kind of feeling of I played team sports, and being part of a team was always big for me, and kind of sharing. And one of the things that I sort of found with the book is it gave me an ability to kind of share, and I felt like, as I said, I felt like some of the things that I would have wanted to talk about, I couldn't. It gave me a different platform to do it, but it's that kind of helping each other out bit, and my book is very much sort of focused on trying to help other people, and so I think that was one of the big things for me, is it gave me an opportunity to kind of feel like a real part of a sort of team player by sharing my experiences with people to try and help them. And I think also confidence. Sport gave me a huge amount of kind of confidence, and obviously through my own experiences I lost quite a bit of my kind of self-esteem and confidence with the troubles that I went through. But I think you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to be, as you said, resilient. And I think it would have been really easy for me to think, well, actually, do you know what? I don't want to write this book. I don't want to put my head above the parapet and put it out there. But I think having that belief and the confidence to think, well, I'm able now to deal with if there's people that don't like it or don't enjoy it or might respond differently to how I want to. So I think they're the two big things, really, that kind of determination to share and feel like you're helping others, like in a team environment, and also the kind of confidence to do it and deal with what comes with it.
And that's what we want sport to be, isn't it? It's for those team environments that so many of us love, it's to show that vulnerability and for those around you to support you. So thank you for doing that and for putting it out there. Danielle, do you think it's similar for you in terms of what sport taught you to get there with the book? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think in sport you excel at one particular area, and then when you leave sport, I certainly found the publishing industry, it felt really like I was peeping through a keyhole of a locked door. You know, I could see where I wanted to go and I just wasn't sure how to get there. You know, I didn't have the network, I didn't have the experience in that sector. And it is quite a hard thing to get into. You know, it's something that a lot of people want to do. There's a lot of competition and you've got to really make yourself stand out, make your story stand out. So a lot of what I learned from sports, as Patrick was saying, that confidence, I think, is really, really important. That the communication skills as well. And I think being involved with sport, you even though you're sort of at that elite level, I was always really passionate about the grassroots stuff as well, and kept in touch with that as you go through, and you learn how to communicate those messages. So a lot of what I'd learned in sport, I certainly copied and pasted and applying very much now as an author.
Oh, I love that, copy and paste it. Everything should be taken from sport. Well, most positive things, that's for sure. That's sort of leads me on to my next question, Danielle, for you, in that so many people struggle as they transition out of their sport as an elite athlete, whatever the sport is. And writing has obviously been a great process for you. Is there any advice or top tips that you would give to athletes that have to start thinking about transition at all stages of their career, that you have learned, not necessarily just about the writing process, but in terms of that transition as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, you only get good at sport if you're passionate about it. You know, you're not going to stick with it. You're not going to put in all that time and effort if you don't love what you do. So I think when it comes to that transition out of sport, it's about finding something that you enjoy just as much. And once you've found that, once you understand that purpose, you know, you've got the skills to actually go out there and deliver. You just approach it in a slightly different way. So for me, it's about really exploring what you enjoy. And writing, as I say, for me was something that's come through from my childhood. That was something I've always been passionate about. Took me quite a long time to actually get it off the ground, but yeah, I did get there. So I think follow your passion, and I think build your network as well. You know, nobody succeeds on their own. It's all about people, and if you can bring as many supporters or as people who can advise and help you to the table, you're in a much better place to propel yourself forwards.
Absolutely, that network is so key, isn't it? And Danielle, we've spoken about being more Pinky. So Pinky, the founder of the Women of the Future Network, has such a powerful and strong connection to people that actually no one says no to her, and where that would take you. So yeah, completely agree with that side. We've touched on this quite a lot throughout the discussion, but Patrick, if there was one lesson that you would like the reader to take away from your book, what would that be?
I think the importance of being open and honest. My story is one that I was essentially with my compulsive gambling addiction. I was also a compulsive liar, and I wasn't open and honest about what was going on in my life and what I was going through, and I now understand that there was very good reasons for that, and that it was very complex, but I think I've seen the importance of talking, the importance of sharing, the importance of being open and honest, how it's kind of transformed my life. And obviously I've done that in the book, and I think if you read it, it is very honest, and I think it hopefully just shows people the importance of being honest, whatever it's about, whether it's about what's going on in your personal life, whether it's about the way you're feeling, whether it's about being honest with yourself and true to yourself. I think that's the most important thing, because for 13 years I wasn't, and it didn't help anybody, including myself. And I think the amount of respect people have for you for being honest, I think goes an awful long way. And I think I remember once being told honesty is always the best policy, and it most definitely is.
Yeah, I think from what Danielle said about the importance of that network, but it's actually how you utilize that network as well, both personally and professionally, because open and honesty will get you so much further. So thank you for what you've done there, and I think it will personally change a lot of people in terms of how they view it, particularly those young males, that the stereotypical side of them is that they shouldn't do that, and what is a strong man. So thank you for doing that, Patrick. Danielle, for you, obviously you've got a few children's books, but let's go with Run Like a Girl. What one thing would you like young girls to take away from reading it?
You can achieve anything, you know, but I think growing up, I really struggled to understand that I could have a career in sport because there just wasn't the role models out there. And whilst that is improving, you know, there's still a big shortfall in terms of female athletes that get the coverage they deserve, but also sometimes the way they're portrayed. And for me, it's about the characteristics. You know, it Run Like a Girl features 50 female athletes. And it was just amazing doing all the research and writing about them and understanding their stories and backgrounds, because I think every single athlete has a different story, you know, different motivations, a different route into their sport, which is just fascinating in itself. But when you look at the characteristics, you know, that grit, that determination, that the fact that they built their confidence over time through sport, you know, that journey is quite similar. They might have found it in a slightly different way, but those characteristics that contribute to success are all there. So for me, it was really about highlighting those and how those athletes built them in different ways, and that actually you can do that too. You know, if you work on whatever it is you want to, whatever sport or even outside of sport, you can achieve by building those characteristics up.
Yeah, and sport, I guess, is the cover story, but the underlying messages they're also so similar. If you had to pick one athlete out of those 50, who would be your favourite? Don't worry, this isn't going anywhere publicly.
So hard, but I would have to say Yusra Mardini. I think you know, different stories relate to us for different reasons, and for me it's the overcoming adversity side of things. I just think her story, her epic journey from Syria to Germany and then to make the refugee Olympic team, is just such an incredible one. And I think, you know, I wonder if I was in that position, would I have stuck with my passion? Would I have stuck with my dream? And, you know, if I'm ever having a really rubbish day, just thinking about people like that and thinking, wow, they did it with all that going on and still managed to pull through. It does kind of give you a little kick up the backside when you need it.
And I think with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, for young girls particularly, to have something that they can look to and think, wow, this is actually what they've been through and achieved, so what can I do? So thank you. I just want to thank you for the time, both of you. How can everyone find out about your fantastic books? Patrick, where should people head to?
Well, as you'll know too well, Alex, I'm fairly relentless on social media, so that's
shameless. We love it.
That's obviously one of the channels. Yeah, I'm on most social media platforms, so at Patrick Foster 02 on Twitter and at Patch Foster on Instagram. Details there, and of course the book's available on Amazon or the Bloomsbury website. If you do want to read more about it or hear about it, I've been really lucky with some of the exposure that I've had over the last few weeks, and there's been various sort of articles in major newspapers about my story and the book, which at times was quite overwhelming, but at the same time has been amazing, and I've got a lot to thank Bloomsbury for in terms of their publicity of it. So hopefully you should be able to find it in one of those places. And yeah, do read it if you're interested.
But just touching on what you said there, that you have found parts of it overwhelming, isn't that so important what you've just done? You've just been honest that it's overwhelming, and it's that vulnerability piece that we keep going back to. So hopefully lots more messages will come from that, and people will start changing the way they want to be perceived and are perceived by others.
Yeah, I think so. And I would add to that actually, I think the really important bit of it is you see the response and the impact that it has on other people, and it makes it all worthwhile. And whilst you've still got to look after yourself and that kind of element of self-care and making sure you can deal with it, I think just the fact that people then respond in the way they do is often so different from what you were ever expecting. And I think putting your sort of neck on the line, people, if you're brave and courageous and show vulnerability, then people do respect you for it, and I'm learning that more and more. And this process more than any other.
Gosh, absolutely. And I think I'm an example of that after reading it, Patrick. I sent you a message, and I've obviously heard your story so many times, but just having it there on paper, it just hits people in so many different ways. So completely agree. Danielle, how do people find out about all of your wonderful books and work?
Sure. So yeah, they're sold by most major bookstores and of course Amazon. But yeah, use an independent bookstore. Also, if you want a signed copy, you can come directly to my website, so daniellebrown.co.uk.
Amazing. And we obviously will be we're constantly sharing about both books on our social platforms at the Mintridge Foundation, which as a charity today we are also launching our own book, which is so exciting. And just to hear, I think, to share notes with you both on how long the process is it's been mind-boggling, a completely new area for us. But I just wanted to ask you both, you obviously know what Foundations is about, and it's biographies on all of our ambassadors, and hoping to help young people aspire and achieve great things themselves. Why, Patrick, do you think a book like that is so important for all young people?
I think the most important bit is, and I think you just hit the nail on the head in what you said, is it's inspiring people. Danielle mentioned it earlier, and I thought it was really interesting when she got asked to kind of pinpoint which one person was kind of most inspirational. I think inspiration comes in so many different forms, and it doesn't matter what you take inspiration from, or indeed who you take inspiration from, as long as they make you believe you can achieve what you want. And I think that's where a book like that, you'll read about different people, different stories, and I think the ability to inspire young people and make a difference is huge, and I think that's the most important thing.
Oh, thank you. And I love that inspiration comes in so many different forms, because so often it might seem that being an elite athlete or reaching the highest echelons in your sporting career as an Olympian feels really unreachable. But actually, what can you take from that person? You yourself might not go on to be an Olympian, but you can take other areas, which hopefully this book will bring. So that's great to hear from someone that's in the book themselves. So yeah, we're excited to see your cartoon out there everywhere, Patrick, as well. Danielle, what about you in terms of why you feel that this book is important? There's obviously similar stories and synergies between the books that you've brought out too.
Yeah, and you just totally stole my answer. No, I was just going to say that I love the title Foundations, and I think when people do look at elite athletes, they kind of see this really well-oiled machine. You know, they see where it goes really, really well, and for some athletes that can only be a couple of seconds in competition, and they go out there and do a brilliant job, but they don't see the journey that it takes to get there, and they certainly don't see the struggles, the difficult bits. So for me, that foundation, understanding where people started, where they came from, and what they actually experienced on that journey, for me, that in so many ways is so more important than the end bit, you know, where they're actually delivering results and winning medals. So being able to get those stories across and show that, you know, anyone, even those sort of people who've really achieved, do still experience setbacks and struggles and challenges, and there are boring parts to that journey. I think getting those messages across is really important, because as Patrick was saying, inspiration is so important. Inspiration, it transforms into action. You know, you're not going to change your behavior, you're not going to really sort of push forward without that bolstering you and pushing you from behind. So yeah, for me, I think it covers all those bases. You've got the inspiration bit, you've got the key messages. I think it's brilliant.
Do you want to come and do our sales pitches from today? That would be really helpful. Thank you, Danielle. It's so funny that you mention about the name, and how, because I don't know how long we all spent having calls. What should we call it? What should we do? And actually, we just said Foundations. It links to, yeah. So like you said, it does what it says on the tin, and everything that we're trying to portray that is sometimes hard to articulate. That's what it does. So that's so true. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time today. Just if you have, we'd love to have any final tips or advice for young people about what today is, and it being World Book Day, what you want people to take from an important day like this. Patrick, we'll start with you.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I'm going to just talk about kind of use it use reading, use books as a platform to learn and to be inspired, because I think Danielle said it in numerous different ways, and I think I've alluded to it as well. You can read things and it can make you, it can just change something for you. It can make you believe that you can go and achieve something. It can inspire you to be like somebody else, or not be like somebody else, or not make the mistakes that someone else did. But I think the most important thing is use it as a platform to learn. It's a great way to learn different things, different skills, important messages, and yeah, just use it. Read, enjoy it, find what works for you, because I hate it when people say, oh, I hate reading. Well, maybe you've only tried to read one type of book or one thing. It doesn't matter how you do it, what you do, as long as you enjoy it and you take something from it and learn.
What works for you as the individual is so key there, isn't it? And Danielle, any final?
Yeah, I think for me the important bit's finding yourself in the story. You know, there are so many different books out there, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, and if you can find yourself in the story, and we are seeing so many more diverse writers coming out there sharing their stories and their experiences through that narrative, as I say, whether it is fiction or non-fiction, and being able to see yourself in that, I think is so important. World Book Day does just a brilliant job at really highlighting this and highlighting that there are so many books out there by brilliant writers, that it just covers so many different topics and themes. And as Patrick says, you can learn so much. But for me, yeah, it really does start with that inspiration bit. Find yourself in that story, relate to it, and use those messages, whether it's about upskilling yourself, you know, self-developing, or whether it's sort of a specific goal in mind that you want to pursue.
Okay, so key. And actually, when you were speaking there, Danielle, I thought how I miss World Book Days actually being in a school for that day, because it is magical to see that the diversity of books, to see those characters. And then I sort of remember the awful costumes that I went in as the Wicked Witch. I don't know, what would your costume be if you had to dress up today? We're digressing now slightly.
So my favorite books growing up as a teenager was the Lioness Quartet. So it was all about a really strong female character, so I'd have to go in as a Lady Knight.
Nice, I love that. Patrick, what would you be dressing up as?
I think I'll be embracing my red hair and maybe Ron Weasley from Harry Potter or something like that.
We're not embracing stereotypes here, Patrick. That's
no,
exactly what we're not doing. Oh, amazing. Oh, well, thank you so much both, and I hope you enjoy World Book Day just as much as everyone else across the UK, and let's hope there's lots more books flying off the shelves from it as well. So thank you.
Thank you.